Let's start first with what we heard from this ruling from Judge Boasberg, saying that he believes there's probable cause that exists to hold an officials in criminal contempt for violating his orders last month. The White House says it plans to seek immediate appellate relief. Is this yet another issue where you see ultimately this ends up before the Supreme Court?
I do. I do think it'll end up before the Supreme Court. Look, the judge's ruling to begin with was nonsense to turn planes around in the middle of those flights. But as you indicated, obviously the administration disagrees with this ruling. They're going to appeal it. It is likely to go to the Supreme Court. Yet once again, if we remember, the Supreme Court has already said in one case that that type of filing doesn't belong with this judge. It actually belongs in the state of Texas in the Fifth Circuit. So there's more to be played out here, and obviously there's more declarations by the Department of Justice.
You had also told my colleague Breonna Keeler not long ago, right, when we look at some of the rulings that we've seen, what we've also seen from the courts is there should have been some due process here. And you made the point to her, I'm paraphrasing here, so bear with me, that had they followed that, perhaps we wouldn't be in this situation now. Do you still stand by that?
Well, I think there's a couple of different things at play here. I think fundamentally this is a citizen from El Salvador. He has no legal right to be in the United States. And what I also said at that time, which I don't think you did read, is that he has no legal right. He has a final order of removal to be removed from the United States. So this idea that he is to come home being the United States, which he is, again, not a citizen of, is just not in the cards. He has no legal right to be here in the United States. And so he should be removed. And again, he is a member of a foreign terrorist organization designated by President Trump and eligible for removal under that as well.
So 2 points. There has not yet been clear evidence presented that he is, in fact, a member of a terrorist organization. So I think that's important to point out. But number two, in terms of being removed, there was a legal order that he was not supposed to be removed to El Salvador. That's where he was sent.
So two things. Two different judges have said that he actually does have ties to MS-13. One is the immigration judge and one is an appellate judge. So that is there. Now, I think you are right. It's not out in public, but a lot of these immigration court proceedings never make their way into the public domain. So there is that point. There is a withholding of removal, as you indicated. That is also from 2019. My guess is the basis for that withholding is probably come and gone, because I understand that the gang that he was scared of and seeking withholding from no longer exists in El Salvador. So I think there's a number of different things here at play. But at the end of the day, again, I think it's very, very important to say MS-13 gang member, a foreign terrorist organization, you have the ability to remove those folks. And then again, he is a citizen of El Salvador.
Right. We're going to have to move on to other things. But again, there was a specific order. He was not to be sent to El Salvador. I do want to ask you about what we're hearing. So President Trump had noted on more than one occasion that he would like to look into the possibility of sending what he calls homegrown criminals, American citizens, to prisons in other countries, potentially in El Salvador. So we're learning today that the DOJ and the White House counsel's office are seriously looking into the viability of this measure. Do you believe that the president has the legal authority to do that?
Well, I'm not an attorney, so I'm not going to pontificate on that. Look, the president said it himself. He certainly has an interest in it, but he also wanted to see if it was legal. So as you indicated, the Department of Justice and others are taking a close look at that, and they'll go by whatever is legally viable to do in this case.
Does anything about that give you pause, or do you think that that is an avenue that should, in fact, be explored?
If it is legally permissible, it doesn't give me pause. Obviously, it hasn't been done before, but that's not to say it is illegal. Again, I'm not an attorney, so I'm not going to pontificate on the benefits or the cons of whether or not this is illegal. The president was very clear. He certainly has an interest in doing that, but he also directed the Department of Justice to see about the legality of it.
The White House says it plans, quote, immediate appellate relief after a federal judge found probable cause to hold Trump administration officials in criminal contempt. It stems from those critical hours last month when the Trump administration sent hundreds of alleged gang members to El Salvador under the Alien Enemies Act, despite the judge's order to halt those flights and turn them around.
So all of this is CNN is also learning the Justice Department and the White House counsel's office are now examining just how they can fulfill President Trump's stated desire to send American citizens who have committed violent crimes to El Salvador's mega prison as well. CNN's Jeff Zeleny is live for us at the White House. Also joining us here at the desk, CNN senior crime and justice correspondent Caitlin Polans. Caitlin, I want to begin first with what we heard from Judge Boasberg, finding probable cause that he could hold administration officials in criminal contempt.
Yeah, this all dates back to a hearing on March 15th, a Saturday, when 3 planes full of migrants were lifting off from American soil, taking those people to a Salvadoran prison and giving them to the hands of the Salvadoran government. During that day, this Judge Boasberg, held hearings, and now he's asking, was the administration willfully violating orders he was giving from the bench that day to say, turn the planes around, we have to check this out legally if these people have been removed properly under the law. They may not have been. Now he's saying in a 46-page opinion, it looks like it, that the Justice Department was willfully and intentionally violating his orders. Some of the language he uses, he says, the lawyers in this case have been stonewalling him. They've been cherry-picking facts. They've been violating him in a way where they're defying the court deliberately, gleefully, tweeting about him, retweeting the president of El Salvador saying, oopsie, too late to have these men back who are migrants in that prison. So now this is on the path to a criminal contempt conviction for someone in the administration. So we're not there yet. There is a set of steps that Judge Boasberg will take. He'll be getting sworn statements in the next coming days. And then he could ask the Justice Department to prosecute someone for criminal contempt if he thinks that is indeed what happened here. He is already making a lot of probable cause findings, or he could appoint his own special prosecutor. One of the things he wrote, just a quick quote from this, from the opening hours of Saturday, March 15th, the government's conduct betrayed a desire to outrun the equitable reach of the judiciary, hustling class members, that's the migrants, to an airplane before the presidential proclamation had ever been published publicly. And in the face of a lawsuit that sought a temporary restraining order was bad enough, the decision to launch planes during the afternoon court hearing was even worse. The Constitution does not tolerate willful disobedience of judicial orders, especially by officials of a coordinate branch who have sworn an oath to uphold it.
So that is something. Not surprisingly, we know the White House is going to respond. Jeff Zeleny joining us now with more on the administration's response. They are not buying it.
No, and we're getting the first response now officially from the White House as they digest this 46-page ruling. And we know that the president has long gone after this judge in particular, Judge James Boasberg, who, of course, was appointed to the court initially by President George W. Bush and then elevated by President Barack Obama. But the president, Donald Trump, has called for the impeachment of Judge Boasberg. He has been in his sights ever since this case began. But we are getting a new statement, a new comment from Stephen Chung, who's the White House communications director, specifically about this ruling. Let's take a look at that. He said, we plan to seek immediate appellate relief. The president is 100% committed to ensuring that terrorists and criminal legal migrants are no longer a threat to Americans and their communities across the country. So appealing this ruling, that's the bottom line to that. Of course, no surprise to this. So this is where it will go. We will see what the appellate court, the appellate judges say about this. But look, the bottom line to this, this judge and his rulings, despite having a reputation as an even-handed judge, he was a roommate of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh during law school. He has been singled out by this president for his rulings. We shall see where this goes. But criminal contempt, of course, is a very serious matter, as we all know.
And Jeff, when it comes to the administration taking this significant step toward achieving Trump's goal of sending U.S.-born criminals, homegrown criminals, as he calls them, to El Salvador, what's the latest there?
Look, I mean, the White House has been very clear about this, particularly in the case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who's been in the news, of course. And even as the courts are still ruling in that case, the White House and top administration officials are making clear that their view is already solid on this. Listen to the Attorney General Pam Bondi earlier today.
He is not coming back to our country. President Bukele said he was not sending him back. That's the end of the story. If he wanted to send him back, we would give him a plane ride back. There was no situation ever where he was going to stay in this country. None. But he's from El Salvador, he's in El Salvador, and that's where the president plans on keeping him.
And of course, this is the man who the Supreme Court said the U.S. government must facilitate his release from that prison in El Salvador. Of course, this has been playing out and really shining a light on this Trump administration's immigration and deportation policies. So that a court case is one of the many that will be heard here, but certainly the administration is trying to close the door, even as justices and the courts have done anything but that.